good evening and welcome to Faith Christian Center. You are joining us in our Health Month. Every June we have Health Month where we discuss topics such as those dealing with emotional health, physical health, financial health, and spiritual health. So tonight we have a special guest that's going to join us as we dive into the subject of debt and credit. My name is Pastor Ricky Wilson. I'm the Senior Assistant Pastor here at Faith Christian Center. But before we begin, I want to acknowledge our senior pastors, Pastor Sean and Erica Moore, for their leadership and for the opportunity to stand on their platform, which I do not take lightly, nor do I take it for granted. It's truly a blessing. We have a special guest, which I'm going to introduce in a moment, but before we do, we're going to go before the Lord in prayer. Heavenly Father, we come before you this day, and we just thank you, Father, for the opportunity and for the privilege to be able to minister to the people that are viewing this evening. We ask you to lead us and to guide us, to give us creativity, to give us wisdom and understanding as it relates to this. Your desire is that the body of Christ lives a prosperous life, that we may fulfill our calling and our purpose. So we thank you in advance for what you're doing as we pray this prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
It is a privilege and an honor for me to introduce our guest this evening, and his name is Timo Wilson. No, we're not related, but there's something about that last name. Timo has a company, it's ASAP Credit Solutions, and I'm going to let Timo kind of explain how this business of his came about, what he does, and he's going to give us a short version. Once that's done, we're going to dive right into the message and the information for this evening. Timo?
Hey guys, once again, Pastor Wilson, thank you so much for the opportunity. Truly blessed for you to allow me to get on your platform in your house and really educate, on how credit and debt works, as, these are topics we were not taught in school. But more importantly, I have a background in sales and finance, worked with the banks for a lot of years, really got to see a lot of credit reports. And, starting in my automotive career in sales, I started at a subprime dealership. And what subprime means is that dealership works with the worst of the worst credit profiles. And it triggered me emotionally to, see thousands of people come into a dealership and not get approved. You have moms getting dropped off in taxis with their kids, like really needing a car to get to work, really needing transportation or just somewhere to live. But the banks say no, due to that 3-digit FICO score. And that really inspired me to start studying credit, start studying the laws that protect us as consumers on a federal level against the inaccuracies on the reporting that they do on us consumers. And after studying for many years, and I was a victim myself, I had really horrible credit at the age of 25 years old, knew nothing about credit. But by reading, by studying, by testing over the years, I really figured out the credit system to, at this point, help thousands and thousands of lives break the bondage of financial freedom. So just started the business part-time to assist clients in the car dealerships to achieve better credit and get the cars they want. And then next thing you know, my company blew up and I pursued it full time. Actually, on July 4th would be my second year full time out of corporate America running my company.
Wow.
And we've been established now for 3 years as I started it part time. So finance, numbers, credit, finances has always been my thing, but credit is just now my baby that I'm so passionate about and so passionate to share with other people.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Timo. It's important for us to really understand credit, how it works, and we may use the word credit and debt kind of interchangeably, but the significance of it is that the Bible talks about it. Now, what I've discovered with regards to what God says about debt, what he says about credit, what he says about money, is this. There are some 2,350 verses that speak specifically about money, about credit, and about debt. So if you don't think it's important to God, it is. But more importantly, it's not so much that credit is a bad thing. It's not. Credit is neutral. It's not good or it's not bad. But the thing that God wants us to really understand is that it's got to be used in a very skillful manner with discipline applied. People get into debt because of conspicuous consumption, which is simply keeping up with the Joneses. People get into debt for all kinds of reasons, to satisfy the flesh, because they have desires that are beyond their pocketbooks, so they extend themselves and they find themselves in trouble. Some of the scriptures, specifically, as you'll see on the screen behind me, speak to debt, and it speaks to the impact that it has in the lives of people. Well, I'm here to declare this evening that who the Son sets free is free indeed. God doesn't want you bound by debt, worrying, being eaten away with just fear of creditors and all the things that they do, the shenanigans that they pull, and trying to extrapolate dollars and monies from their customer base. Proverbs 22:7 says this: "The rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is the slave to the lender." Romans 13:8, "Owe no one anything except to love each other. For the one who loves one another has fulfilled the law." Psalms 37:21, "The wicked borrow, but does not pay back, but the righteous is generous and gives." Proverbs 22:26 and 27, "But not one of these who give pledges, who puts up security for debts. If you have nothing with which to pay, why should your bed be taken from under you?" Matthew 6:24, "No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money." Deuteronomy 28:12. We've heard this verse many a times. "The Lord will open up to you his good treasure, the heavens, to give the rain to your land in its season, and to bless all the work of your hands. And you shall lend to many nations, and you shall not borrow." Proverbs 13:11, "Wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it." And then finally, Hebrews 13:5, "Keep your life free from the love of money, and be content with what you have, for he has said, I will never leave you, nor will I forsake you." So tonight, Timo and myself, we're going to engage in a conversation, and we're going to be, again, talking about both debt and credit. The word, again, may be used interchangeably. But most important, I want the takeaway this evening to be that you're freed. I want you to have some skills and tools that you can walk away with that will help set you free and help you to regain the confidence and to walk where God wants you to be, in a position and a place where you are the child of God. People watch what we do. People watch how we do it. And people also see us from their eyes, and it's a reflection of what God is doing in our lives. So we want to be a blessing. I'm really fortunate that Timo is joining us today. He's considered a credit expert. And we have a litany of questions. Now, the questions for this evening is going to take two paths. We're going to be talking about consumer credit debt. And then later on, we're going to get into the conversation and discussion about business credit. Two are totally different, but they're very important. Many of you that are watching this evening, you may be entrepreneurs. You may be looking to expand your financial footprint. Or you may have a desire to want to go into business. How do you do that? What does it take? Maybe you don't have quite enough money. One of the things that I've discovered here recently with regards to finances, credit, and debt, God never said that it was a sin. God never said that it couldn't be done. What he doesn't want to happen is for debt or credit to consume his children, because then you're serving not God, but mammon. Simply put, credit is an extension of currency that we use to purchase the things that we need. I couldn't put it any simpler than that. So tonight, we're going to get revved up and charged up because we got some good stuff coming your way. And the first question I have for you, Timo, is this. Have you ever seen a client or had a customer with credit so bad that it couldn't be repaired?
You know, the answer to that question, Pastor, is no. I've never had a client that their credit was so bad we were not able to help them. Now, contrary to belief, it might have taken a lot longer to repair that file. But as far as being so bad and it's not repairable, no, sir. The reason why, believe it or not, the worse the credit, for some reason it just works this way. The easier it is to fix. I specifically remember this one client, and this is probably the only time I've seen a 350 FICO score.
Say that again.
350 FICO score.
Hashtag low.
Hashtag poor. Now, with this specific client, this was in my testing phase of credit repair. She was actually a good family friend of mine for many, many years. And I remember pulling her credit file up, and I seen the 350 score, and I thought 400, 450, 480 was bad. I've never seen a 300 before, but the clients that have scores 300, 350, 400, the reason why it's easier to fix is because, number one, they have so many negative accounts where when you start to dispute and when you start to attack, 50% of them are bound to fall off because these are clients that's never had their credit worked on or even looked at from them within a year, where when you start to attack, the negative items just start to come off due to the inaccuracies. So what happens is in the credit repair process is that if you haven't had your credit worked on for a long period of time or ever, right, there's a lot of inaccurate information on your credit profile where when we just send one round in and we start abbreviating Fair Credit Reporting Act, Fair Debt Collection Practice Act, HIPAA laws, the creditors, the collection agencies, they don't want to get sued. The bureaus don't want to get a complaint from the CFPB where they start deleting all the inaccurate negative information where automatically that 350, within 35 days, we managed to get her to at least 500.
Wow.
500. So that's 150 points in the first 35 days. And then from there, you just have a lot more work to do with what remains, but not necessarily not repairable, because you'd be surprised how many creditors and collection agencies just fat finger data and make mistakes on your credit report that keep you down that far. It's fair to say she had a 500 profile from the start if they didn't report inaccurate data on her from the beginning.
Wow. I mean, you bring up some very interesting points. And I want to remind everyone that's watching this evening, if you have a question, drop it in the chat, because we want to try to get to those questions as well and give you the information that you need. Now, I can share this with you from personal experience. I've experienced something like that many years ago, where there was negative reports on my credit. But this was the thing. It wasn't me. There were some other Ricky F. Wilsons, and I'm like, that can't be me.
Right.
Beginning to dispute it, they came off.
Yep.
But the point that you just made is we need to take a look at what people are reporting against us. And if you never do, you don't know, which reminds me of what the Bible scripture says, my people perish for lack of knowledge.
Yes.
The next question I have, since there's no credit that cannot be repaired, if an individual has a bankruptcy, foreclosures, or repossessions on their credit, how long do they stay on? And do they stay on or have to for the full duration?
Yeah. So typically a repossession, foreclosure will stay on your credit report for 7 years. Now, people come up with this myth that after 7 years, the items fall off on their own, just like inquiries. They say inquiries just fall off on their own after 2 years. From my experience, you have to at least submit some paperwork to notify them that it's been this time frame for it to fall off. Now, true story, if my cousin Keenan is watching this, my cousin Keenan had a foreclosure on his home, on his credit report, not to put his personal information out there, and it was a lot of money. After about 6 months, we were able to make that foreclosure disappear, not because he foreclosed or it wasn't him that foreclosed on the home. It's more so the reporting of the account. Are the balances accurate? Is the payment history accurate? Are the account numbers accurate? Do you have the original instrument, that original contract my client signed tying him to the debt? And if the bureaus don't have that, you can challenge that all day. Now, it's a lot harder than what I make it seem. Trust me, it's a lot of processes. It's a lot of smaller data houses we have to attack as well as to oppose just 3 bureaus. But it's very possible. Now, a bankruptcy, depending if you do Chapter 7 or 13, will stay on your credit report for 10 years. So that's about 10 years you're stuck in financial prison. And the problem with having a bankruptcy on your file, your credit report, is that if you manage to rebuild with a bankruptcy on your credit file, you cannot pay late. You can't let anything go to collections or nobody will ever touch you again. But we've been very successful at bankruptcies as well because, once again, contrary to belief, your courthouse does not report public data to outside agencies on you. It's a smaller data house called LexisNexis that buys this information and sells it to the credit bureaus.
My credit is being purchased by a third party,
Yes,
sold to Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian.
correct,
And they then post it on their reports,
correct,
and it's against me.
correct. Each bureau is privately owned, and they're really, the more data they can collect on you and damage you, the more money they make. It's as simple as that. So, yeah, a smaller data house basically buys the account, the data, sells it to the bureaus, and now it's on your credit report. I have many clients. Our first plan of attack on a bankruptcy is we write the courthouse directly, and we ask them, do you report public information on me to any outside agencies? They 100% respond back with no. We take that same letter from the courthouse, send it into the, now it's much more than that because you have LexisNexis, which is the data house. You still have to freeze and dispute. But when we send all this information in, why are you reporting this bankruptcy on my credit profile if the court didn't send it to you directly?
Now, this isn't a question that was written down, but I have to ask this. What's the responsibility of the credit reporting bureaus to have accurate information on a person's credit report? I mean, isn't there some legal obligation to report accurately?
Yeah, based off the Fair Credit Reporting Act. They are supposed to report all accurate data on you. That's why, as a consumer, it states you can challenge any inaccurate, unverifiable, erroneous accounts. So that's why you need to check your credit report. I guarantee you, for most consumers that have less than a 640 FICO score, which is the start to good credit, if you just look at your credit report, you're going to see your name spelled wrong. You're going to see addresses you might never lived at or typed in wrong. You're going to see inaccurate payment data hurting you. And before the Fair Credit Reporting Act, they were allowed to report anything and everything about you without any backing about that. But luckily, this federal consumer-based law is out there now, and it's designed to protect us.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I've got another question here. Got many more.
Yes, sir.
If someone is considering trying to really get their credit turned around and get out of debt, what would you say to someone considering pulling money from a retirement account, such as a 401k, to pay off credit card debt and repay the loan, let's say, within 6 months? Is that a good idea?
So pull out their 401k, use that capital to pay off credit card debt, and then repay the 401k back. Is that what you're asking?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Depending on what interest rates they're locked in at, I would answer. Because if you're in credit card debt, with most consumers, your interest rates are 23 to 28%. If you're pulling out credit cards with fair to, some type of good credit, if you pull out of your 401k and pay that debt off to avoid high interest and you're financially disciplined to pay that money back, okay, I would say yes. Because let's be honest, the pandemic just happened, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of consumers or employees' 401ks disappeared because of the pandemic, because of the market crash, right? So why not leverage that capital to pay off debt if you're financially disciplined and pay it back?
That's the key.
Yes, sir.
You've got to be financially disciplined.
Financially disciplined, yes, sir.
Right. Okay, so we're talking about credit scores, we're talking about numbers, 350 on up, et cetera. What is a FICO score? What is that FICO? What does that mean?
Yeah, so FICO is Fair Isaac and Company, right? So you have Bill Fair and Earl Isaac. These are two guys that came up with this scoring model that basically reports a 3-digit number, which gives lenders a better picture about you, how financially responsible you are, how you pay creditors back on time, how you manage debt. So it's an algorithm. Now, little that people know, you don't just walk around with a FICO score. Like right now, I don't have a FICO score. But when you pull all the data that's on a piece of paper, it's going to generate a FICO score for where you sit at that point in time. So Bill Fair, Earl Isaac, FICO.
How does it work?
How does it work? So it pulls all the data off your credit report and it creates a 3-digit number. Obviously, the higher the number, the more fundable you are. The lower the number, the more of a credit risk you are where nobody wants to loan you any money.
Good. Okay. Now, you and I, we've had some conversations behind the scenes on a couple of occasions. There are some new changes coming to this credit arena.
Yes, sir.
And based on our conversations, it appears that there could be some real negative effects to people, their lives and lifestyles, based on this new credit reporting system.
Yes, sir.
And that credit reporting system is called FICO 10.
That's right.
Can you explain what that is?
Yes, so FICO 10, in my perception, is designed to hurt consumers because this is going to be the first scoring model that's based off trended data, right? Meaning your creditors, let's say you have a 750 credit score right now, but 2 years ago you had a 500 credit score and you went through my credit repair program and we got you to 700. Well, creditors is going to be able to go back 24 months on your credit report to see how you've managed debt and paid on time. So 24 months ago, they can make a lending decision if they're going to approve you or not. Number two, your payment history is going to count as double now if you're paying late on account. So typically, one 30-day late payment will drop your score anywhere between 40 to 80 points. Well, they're going to start doubling that. If you're using excessive credit, like credit utilization, let's say Chase gave you a $5,000 credit card and you're carrying balances over every single month rather than paying them off in full, you're now going to be dinged double. And what's more important as well is they're going to start hurting your FICO score on the FICO 10 model if you're pulling out personal loans.
How did this get started, passed? I mean, whose idea was it to change from the, I think it's currently the FICO 8?
Correct, FICO 8.
And whose idea, brilliant idea, to go from FICO 8 to FICO 10?
Well, in the history of FICO, I mean, you know, you have Beacon FICO 5 for mortgages, FICO 8, FICO 9, and now FICO 10. I mean, my perception and my belief on this whole system is, you know, you have major corporations getting together to strategize on how can they make more money off consumers, especially with poor credit, right? I firmly believe this is rolled out only to get the corporations and banks to make more money off interest, if you ask me.
That seems so unfair.
So unfair.
So unfair. So what can consumers do then? I mean, to protect themselves against the new FICO 10 coming out? I mean, what options do you have?
Yeah. I mean, what I would definitely recommend is we talked a little bit about financial discipline, right? So number one, it starts with you as a consumer being disciplined to pay on time on your debts, because payment history is the number one impact on a FICO score, if it's FICO 10 or FICO 8. I mean, I've seen clients, especially during COVID-19, 750s, 800s, miss one or two payments, and now they're in the 550s. So it starts with the payment history. If you cannot commit to those 30-year, 6-year, 5-year, 2-year terms, don't pull out the debt, number one. Number two, the credit available to you now, I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it, but you have to manage that credit. You know, if you have a $10,000 credit card, it's wise to only use what you know you can pay back in full that month, right? So credit utilization and payment history, but more so, like I said, it's financial discipline. You know, do not take out debt that you just can't manage or that you just can't pay for.
Well, that leads to another question as well. Clearly, and you just mentioned this a minute ago, that there is nothing that educates the consumer in school about credit and or how it's used, how it can impact you and literally affect your life.
Correct.
So if an individual is not disciplined, then to me it seems like they shouldn't even be applying for credit.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. With that being said, though, if you do, I can almost assure you, and I'm saying this, does and can and should a person pay attention to what they're signing? Because typically, they offer you credit, we don't read what the interest rate, we don't read what the terms are or anything else, and a part of that education should be being committed to at least know what the terms are for the credit that you're getting.
Yes, sir. That's extremely important. You have to read the fine print. When I personally pull out credit, before I even accept the debt, I'm reading everything on that contract before I pull it out. You have to be very, very careful. You have to be very careful. Now, me personally, at this level, I'm only interested in, if I do credit cards, it has to be 0% for 12 to 18 months, That's like free money. That's good debt, It's good as cash, right? But those loans that, especially auto loans, if you're applying for an auto loan and you're getting anything above a 5.5%, you should not finance an auto loan. Just go on ahead and buy a $2,000-$3,000 car that fits your needs and build your credit up to pull out debt at much lower rates, because that's why people go into get bad credit, because they pull out little amounts of debt at high interest rates, which inflates their payment, and they don't have enough capital in their savings account to survive for 1 or 2 months if an emergency happens, and now they're letting accounts go and damaging their credit, which damages their buying power. But yes, read the fine print every single time, 100% of the time. Even if you can get an affordable, attorney at low rates to review your contracts. I was talking to you a little bit in the back how with my new lease, I had an attorney overlook that new lease to make sure I'm in a good position. You have to protect yourself because banks are not your friends. It's as simple as that.
They would have you to believe otherwise.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say this, and so I want to encourage you that are watching tonight, if you've made bad mistakes, don't let it hold you back. If you made errors, don't let it stop you. They can be changed. The
Yes.
issues and problems that you've encountered can be corrected over time. And I'm going to share with you kind of an experience that I had some years ago, and bad decision. Has anyone ever heard the word timeshare?
Oh, man.
Walking to the mall, enjoying the day, and all of a sudden somebody calls you over and they say, a free trip. All you have to do is sit down for a 1-hour presentation.
That's right.
And you're vowing to yourself, I will never, ever, ever buy anything. I'm just going to get the free trip. Well, lo and behold, they sign you up, you go to the presentation, and it's not an hour, not an hour and a half, it may be 2, it may be 3, and you're hounded, you're pressured to sign on the contract, and now you've got something you're stuck with for X number of years, and you can't get rid of it.
Yes, sir.
Happens all the time, doesn't it?
I've seen it on my clients' profiles, and it's always, for some reason, only on Experian. I always see a couple payments on time, then the client stops paying, and then it's always the same reason. Basically, I didn't know I signed for that. I didn't know these were the terms and conditions, and at this point it doesn't make sense to me, so I'm just not going to pay for it, But you're still damaging your credit, and that's where reading the contract and the fine print comes into play.
Wow. Always read before you sign.
Yes, sir.
And read it, and if you don't understand it, ask questions.
Yeah.
Don't be led by a salesperson because their job is to sell. They
Correct.
want to make sure that you sign on the dotted line. That's oftentimes how salespeople, and not all salespeople are the same, but that's oftentimes how they receive their commission. Again, this is their livelihood, and this is how they get paid. Now, since we're talking about FICO scores, we're talking about credit, etc., I wanted to get your opinion and with regards to the consumer moratorium that's on houses. They don't have to pay. Renters don't have to pay. What impact will that have when this moratorium is lifted?
I personally really feel like it's going to be a bad situation because you have consumers that might not have paid their mortgage for now a year and a half. And when, the deferment is lifted on that loan, 1 or 2 things is going to happen. The bank is either going to want all their back pay all in one, or they're going to give you the opportunity to inflate your mortgage, maybe $200, $300, $400, $500 extra a month to catch up on that back pay. And most people, as it is, when they purchase homes, most consumers, they bite off more than they chew, because it's still an emotional sale based off how it looks, the size, the location, and they're working to pay that mortgage, where, like I said, most consumers don't have more than $1,000 saved in their bank accounts, where when you inflate a mortgage even $200, $300, $400 a month, that's going to play a toll on our economy as far as real estate, where I personally feel like there's going to be somewhat of a correction or somewhat of a crash, and you're going to see more foreclosures than anything due to this specifically.
Okay. That's kind of taking us back to 2008.
Correct.
The same scenario.
Now the difference is that they tightened up their security, where back then you could walk into a bank without check stubs and get 2 or 3 mortgages. They weren't really fact checking or doing what they do now as far as your credit, your income. I just went through the housing process myself, and I mean, you're talking 2 years worth of tax returns, profit and loss statements, balance sheets. All my credit cards had to be paid off to qualify, etc. But for the consumers that are in deferment, my best advice for you is, if you have a little bit extra you can pay each month, or something that you can pay, you might want to start paying now, so the burden isn't larger when they lift the deferment, where you're in a bad situation and you lose your house.
Wow. There's so much to be said about money.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bible tells us clearly that the love of money is the root of all evil. Whether you have a lot, whether you have a little, and those individuals who love it are going to get burned at the end of the day. Wow, it's amazing. This is a huge market. It's huge. So let me ask this question, Timo. What would you suggest to those watching, and what can they do to prepare for this upcoming change in this whole gamut, in this whole arena of credit on a personal level?
So first and foremost, I would personally say go to annualcreditreport.com and get yourself a free credit report first. Companies like the one I own, we offer free consultations, no obligation to sign up. And what we do on our free consultations is what we call a live credit audit, where our job is to educate the consumer on every single item reporting on their credit report. You can't move forward unless you have the data in front of you first, right? Once you have the data in front of you and you get professional advice and a plan put together, then it's time to execute. I would say spend less on items you don't need that are materialistic. I would say stick to your needs right now and only purchase what you need, like your car needs to be paid on time, your mortgage needs to be paid on time, groceries, utilities, items like that. Save as much money as you can and put it in the bank. But other than that, it's all about paying on time, building your credit up, and having a basket for emergency funds just in case something does happen. But you have to check your credit report first.
Okay.
And then you have to get on a plan right after that, right? But for those that aren't in mortgages currently, that might never bought a home before, we can kind of look at this like an opportunity as well, right? Let's get our credit up to par. You want your credit score to rate as high as possible right now, no matter what you have to do, but avoid pulling out unnecessary debt as well. Now's not the time for that.
What's the impact of where a person lives, zip codes? How does that impact credit?
That impacts their credit tremendously. So let's just say you take a zip code with a lower class, income. Mm-hmm. Creditors look at that to base their lending decision just off your zip code. Obviously, your zip code also shows a lot about the kind of people you're around and the kind of people you live around. So they can base their lending decision just off, where you live at, on top of other factors, but that is included.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It seems like for people who may have some challenges and or difficulties, why does it always seem like they're the ones victimized? Why does it always seem like they're in the position to be taken advantage of?
Because the banks and creditors and lenders, they know they can take advantage of ignorance. And in the law, they don't care if you didn't know or not. You signed this, you're committed to this, black and white holds, right? Also with the zip codes, what I was going to say is the zip codes with the lower incomes are the ones always targeted with marketing when it comes to the subprime offers, the secured credit cards, the high interest auto loans. Notice the zip codes with the worst communities have the most liquor stores, have the most buy here, pay here dealerships.
Yep.
people target those zip codes for their subprime offers. You can go on USPS.com as a business. You can type in different zip codes and have your flyers dropped off for that kind of audience for your ads to run across if you're offering something subprime, knowing they're in the low class of the bracket.
Wow. So people are being targeted based on zip code, knowing clearly that they may not be in a position to really handle the debt. So in essence, they're being taken advantage of.
Yeah.
So unfair.
Definitely.
So
I mean, you think about it, let's just say buy here, pay here, right? They know you're going to go in and you need a car, so you're going to sign on a debt, finance it in-house. They know they got 6 months to 12 months worth of payment out of you, right? Which they done tripled the value of the vehicle or even that they bought it for. Now you repo the car, and trust me, I've been in this situation when I was about 23 years old. I remember it clear as day. I saved $2,500, had a 480 FICO score, went to the buy here, pay here dealership, gave them my money, took the Dodge Magnum home. I was excited, taking a shower, getting ready to show all my friends. I go outside to start the car, the engine blew on me. Same day I bought it. So then I called the dealership. I'm like, hey guys, listen, I worked hard for that $2,500. You know, that was probably the most I ever saved at that point. And I said, hey guys, listen, okay, we'll get you another one. So they gave me another one, but with a lower engine, a smaller engine. I settled because it was all impulse. Okay, I just need a car, right? 3 months later, when it's outside the little basic warranty, the engine blew on that one. But I said, I'm trying to build my credit. So that car sat in front of my house for a year, and I still paid the $350 note on an $8,000 car. And then after a year, I said, I can't do this no more. And they came and picked it up.
Wow. Wow. That's so unfortunate. I wonder how many other people are in situations similar to that go through those challenges or difficult times.
All the time. All the time. Millions. You have 40 million Americans with bad credit. You have another 40 million Americans with no credit. But if you have no credit, it's easier to get to 750 in a higher bracket than bad credit.
What is, let me see, how do I want to phrase this? What would you say is the average amount of consumer debt? I was looking at some statistics earlier. Do you have any idea?
I don't have an idea, but if I had to guess, the average consumer debt has to be an average of about $100,000. About.
Okay.
What is it?
Well, credit card debt is $16,000. If you have a mortgage, we're looking at 134. Let's just round it up.
Correct.
$135,000. That's amazing.
Your average auto loan is $25,000 right there. And then student loans. Yeah.
So if you have student loans on your credit, now whoever has student loans, you want to pay attention to this one.
Yes, sir.
How can you deal with student loans? Can they be taken off? Is there a way of negotiating with the government with regards to student loans?
Yeah, I did it myself. Coming out of college, I walked out with about $30,000 worth of student loan debt. I called a company called Fed Loan Servicing. They were actually a blessing for me because they reconsolidated my debt down to $17,000 from $30,000, and they charged me 2% less interest. As I sit right now, paying over the last 7-8 years, I only have $6,000-$7,000 left. Now, you have to be careful with student loans because most of them are a federal debt. And when you look at your credit report, your student loan, let's say you have a total amount of $100,000 in student loans, what they're going to do is report 7-8 different accounts on that one lump sum, and they never report 30 or 60 days late. They wait for you to become 90 days late. Now you have 8 to 10 accounts reporting 90 days late, which one 90-day late payment hits your credit just as hard as a repossession. And now you see a 700 go down to 400, and they do that because when you get on Experian and you see 100, 200 point drop over student loans, you're going to call in and figure out how to solve the situation. But you want to pay that. You can definitely reconsolidate it. I actually have a program that your members that can schedule for us to reconsolidate their student loans to lower the interest and lower the payments to make it more affordable. And yes, they can be taken off. Yes, sir. If there's any inaccuracies on a student loans can come off your credit report, but you're still responsible for the debt. You still must pay that debt. I tell all my clients that. Very important.
Wow. Well, we got a question that came in. So
Okay.
it says, Timo mentioned that the 0% interest rate offers for 12 months. That's great to use the money for free if you can pay it off by the deadline. What happens if you don't pay off the credit card debt at the 12-month mark?
The balance that is currently, and that was a great question, by the way. Thank you for sending that in. The balance on that credit card at the time that the 12 months is over will be hit with whatever interest rate you signed on, which is normally 20% and above. So if you have a $10,000 balance, after that 12 month, now you owe $12,000 and interest is just going to accrue. Now, what I do enjoy about the 0% credit cards is you're normally locked into just a very low minimum payment. I just, under my company, pulled out a $20,000 credit card just underneath the company at 0% for 12 months. And I have a $65 minimum payment, but the key is financial discipline. You want to manage that balance to pay it off in full before the interest kicks in.
Wow, that's good. Now, we've got another question that came in. How do you handle high medical bills?
Oh, I love medical bills. There's a law, it's called the HIPAA laws. And what the HIPAA law states is that your hospitals and dental agencies, once again, are not allowed to report any outside information about you to any outside agencies. So we have a method that we dispute those medical bills, and instead of the collection agencies putting themselves in a position to get sued, they'd much rather remove it off your credit report. But you have to make sure you did not sign a HIPAA waiver, which most of my clients have never signed a HIPAA waiver to grant the hospital to share your information with outside agencies, meaning they're selling your data to collection agencies for them to attempt to collect the debt.
Now, are hospitals supposed to share that with you? I mean,
yes. Yeah. They're supposed to share with you the HIPAA waiver, and it's your obligation if you want to sign or not. It's your decision.
wow. I'm hoping you're taking really good notes. For some, it may seem like it's a little slow, dry, or boring, but the credit today in our system in this
Yes.
country, it's almost like a ball and chain.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so unfair. Either it's good or it's bad. There's really no middle ground or middle of the road. But the impact that it has on lives, it is not God's best. And to a lot of degrees, it's so unfair.
Yes. I don't know if you know this, Pastor, but 85% of your life's decisions is based off credit. 85%. Where you live, what kind of car you drive, military members with their security clearance, insurance premiums, how much access to capital you have, how much interest you're paying. 85% of life decisions is based off credit. And yes, it is a dry topic. To me, credit is boring. People don't care about credit. They care about what they can do with their credit, right? But more than ever, it's your reputation. It's a piece of paper that shows other corporations how well you pay on time. It's like a referral sheet almost. How well are you paying your debt on time and how much you're paying?
Wow. Okay, we got another question. Thank you for sending them in. Keep those questions coming.
Yeah,
If
definitely.
you have or experience any challenges or difficulties, this is a time to ask because we are in Health Month. We want you to be healthy, wealthy, and wise.
That's
So
right.
we have an expert today that can hopefully answer the questions that you have or that you may have had for some time. There is no reason for you to continue the rest of the year and not be able to break this ball and chain. And I refer to it as such because I know what it's like, and it's not, doesn't feel good. It can be embarrassing, but we
Yes.
serve a good God. We serve an awesome God who loves each and every one of us, who's concerned about us. And today we are going to talk about and continue to talk about credit because it's time for the body of Christ to be set free.
That's
Who the
right.
Son sets free is free indeed. So here we go. Timo, should we pursue the student loan forgiveness, and what is the legit process?
As far as the student loan forgiveness, to me, that's just bait that's just bait out there. Not too many people are going to qualify to get your student loans, forgave. What I would definitely recommend is explore that option, because if you get lucky for you not to have to pay tens of thousands of dollars of student loan debt, that would be amazing. Your money can be put elsewhere. But what I would recommend, if that route doesn't work, as I haven't heard that has been too successful, at least in my network of clients, which we manage thousands, go the reconsolidation route. When you're paying your student loans, especially on time, these are positive accounts that can still show future lenders positive history about you. Your age on your accounts also dictate your FICO score. So a lot of times, the longer you pay on something over a long period of time, it could definitely build your credit up as well. But more than ever, if you can't take that route, consolidate it, lock into a lower rate, lower payment, and just pay the minimum payment over a long period of time to use these accounts, to leverage these accounts to build your credit.
Now, I'm going to say that. You're talking about consolidating debt, right? Mm-hmm. And I want to say that probably the key to doing that and being effective in it is once you consolidate the debt, you're paying and making the minimum payments, don't go back out and acquire or get into more debt.
That's correct. Yeah, if you save, let's say 15,000, like I did, 30,000 to 17,000, that's a $13,000 difference.
Wow.
Stay where you're at. Don't go buy a $13,000 car because you still have the same amount of debt. The whole point is to use these accounts to build credit and to pay them off and get out.
You don't want to work for credit card companies.
Not at all.
You work too hard to earn money. You work too hard to live life. And things now, especially after the pandemic, have become extreme. Everything is going up.
Everything. Inflation is so crazy. The value of the dollar right now is just, they print so much, it's not worth anything. You have to put your money in other places right now.
Wow.
Bitcoin.
That's a whole nother topic. That's a whole nother subject. Okay. But we might get to that one day. Now, another question that came in, Timo, it says, did Timo say that we should or should not sign the HIPAA waivers?
You should not.
You should not sign the HIPAA
Yeah,
waivers.
because that's giving them permission to sell your data to outside agencies like collection agencies. You should not.
Okay. Here's another, and this is a great question here. How do we handle bills that have been paid but removed from one credit report but not on all the other reports?
Oh, that's a great question, whoever asked that. What you want to do is when you pay a charged off account, when you pay a collection, a lot of people think that it helps your credit. It helps the debt, but it doesn't help your credit. Because what happens is let's say you were on the 6th year of not paying that collection, and in 7 years it's going to fall off. When you call in and pay that collection, it shows as a paid account, but it's still a negative mark on your credit, but it re-ages the account where it's going to stay on for another 7 years. Now, what you do is, and this is one of my dispute methods I'll share with you to help you out, is if you disputed that account and successfully got it removed off one credit bureau, basically they removed it because they knew they were reporting it inaccurately. You need to take those same results from that bureau and you need to highlight the deletion and mail it to the other two bureaus, because if it was inaccurate on this bureau, most likely it's inaccurate on the other two, and they must remove it off your credit report. So just send in the results from one bureau to the other two and highlight the deleted account, and you should be successful that way.
It sounds like you really know what you're talking about.
Oh, Pastor, I mean, you're talking, before I really pursued my credit company and started scaling, the marketing and sales side, I knew one thing and one thing only. If I can't produce results, right, I'm not going to be here for a long time. So I literally spent years testing every single method, what's effective for what kind of accounts and what's not, and just have a very seamless, neat process that's just results driven at this point.
This is really good stuff. I mean, I really appreciate the fact that you're diving deep, and a lot of the suggestions that you're providing tonight, is what people can do on their own. You got to take the time.
Correct.
They got to be disciplined, and they got to exert the effort. As a matter of fact, it kind of reminds me of the story that's in 2 Kings chapter 4 about the widow woman, and she was in debt to the point where the creditors were coming to take her sons. She had 2 boys. Her husband had died, and she did not know what to do. So she consulted with the man of God. He gave her advice on what to do with the oil, go out and collect all of the various vessels and things and begin to fill the oil. But the point that I'm really making is the undue stress, the worry. I mean, I can only imagine, your sons are being taken away, not being able to sleep, not being able to eat, just worried. And that really puts a person at a disadvantage. It affects your health, your mindset. It affects you in so many ways.
Yes, sir.
So what you're sharing with us tonight, it's valuable information.
Yes, sir.
And you know what I like about it? I love that we're free.
Free.
Just not for timeshares.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So here we go. We got another question that came in. I have heard conflicting stories regarding debt consolidation. Is it good or bad to try to consolidate credit card debt? With that, if so, what companies are a legit debt consolidation company to lower interest rates? Bam.
Okay, so me personally, I don't feel like there's any legit debt consolidation companies out there at all, because how debt consolidation companies work, the same thing they do, you can do yourself. So they go on ahead and, consolidate all your debt into one lump sum, and you're paying them very high payments monthly. Little that 50% of what you pay a debt consolidation company, they're profiting. But they're calling the creditors on your behalf and negotiating the debt. So here's how it works. What I do for my clients is on the very, very last day of the month, I can call a creditor and settle that debt for 30 cents on the dollar, knowing that they have quotas to hit. Now, with the debt, it's either you take the amount for 30 cents on the dollar or you're not getting paid at all. It's that simple. So all debt consolidations do is they take your money, negotiate the balances, and start chipping away at those balances. I've had clients, Pastor, that pay $800 to $1,000 a month over 3 to 4 years to debt consolidation companies, and you can watch the balances barely move month in, month out. Now, the interest rates, there's no way to switch out an interest rate unless you're refinancing something and getting into a better loan. So the best advice for credit card debt, remember I spoke about 0% interest a little bit. What I do is if I can position a client to get their FICO as high as possible and get them a 0% credit card, let's transfer the balances from your high interest credit cards over to the 0%, which you can do, so it's much easier to pay. But I don't recommend debt consolidation companies at all, because you can do that work yourself instead of paying tens of thousands of dollars to a company, where if you just call the creditor directly and negotiate specifically on the last day of the month, and always remember 30 cents on the dollar is normally the lowest they'll take.
Now, why do debt consolidation companies emphasize the fact that we can get your debt down and we can do this and we can do that? At the same time, an individual consumer can do it on their own. Mm-hmm. Why would a company who has outstanding debts work with a consolidation company as opposed to with an individual directly?
Volume, relationships, they're bringing clients in, basically committing to a debt to pay, as to oppose a consumer not paying on that debt whatsoever. It's firmly off relationships.
Wow.
And they're capitalizing off the ignorance of the consumer. It's as simple as that.
Okay. Now, we have another question, and I can't wait to ask this one because I have no idea what these letters stand for. Okay. Explain what the FCRA and the FDCPA is. Familiar with those?
Yeah, definitely. So the FCRA is the Fair Credit Reporting Act. The Fair Credit Reporting Act is a federal consumer-based laws that protects us as consumers, which states you can challenge any inaccurate, unverifiable, erroneous accounts, and that the creditor that basically holds this debt must prove that it's reporting accurately and the debt is actually yours by providing the original instrument of indebtedness. So the Fair Credit Reporting Act, the book is about, 500, 700 pages, just the Fair Credit Reporting Act alone, and there's so many different clauses in there that we use to dispute negative accounts. And the FDCPA is the Fair Debt Collection Practice Act. What that does is it governs how collection agencies and creditors attempt to collect the debt. Like, they can't call you at 5 in the morning. They can't leave harassing voicemails. They can't send scare tactic letters basically harassing you to pay the debt. And if they do and they violate the FDCPA, I actually have consumer-based attorneys that will take those voicemails, take those calls, take those letters, sue the collection agency, and we can win them up to $1,000 per violation. And what a violation is each call, each letter, etc.
You know what? One of the things I failed to mention earlier when you were introduced, and I think this is mission critical, and this is why I think we connected when we first met, Timo. You are a Christian.
Yes, sir.
You believe in God.
Yes, sir.
We actually prayed in your office,
That's right.
and all the employees were listening to us praying.
Yes, sir.
That says something, because I can almost assure you that a lot of credit consolidation companies or other companies like yours, their CEOs could be, but most probably are not Christian,
That's right.
unfortunately.
They don't have a higher calling. They're not faith driven. They don't believe in
Come
a higher
on now.
power.
Come on,
you
man.
know?
Come on. All right now. You're in the right place.
Yes, sir.
That's what we call Faith Christian Center. All right. Is it better to file bankruptcy than to utilize debt consolidation companies?
That's a tough one. My first plan of attack would be to do your research. I mean, the internet is powerful. You can find out anything and everything. YouTube is powerful. I would do my research first and attempt to go on ahead and negotiate with the creditors myself first. If I'm unsuccessful, then most likely I would do the debt consolidation route before putting that public record on my credit report. And it's dependent upon how much debt you really owe. You know, if we're talking $5, $10, $15, $20,000, I mean, you or a debt consolidation company, if you can find one that's verified, trusted, backed by thousands of 5-star reviews, might be a okay route rather than putting that public record that's going to damage you for the next 10 years and have you in financial prison. I mean, if you ask me, a lot of debt, if you do it right and manage your finances, can be paid over just a few years worth of time rather than putting that stain on you for 10 years.
One of the things that I've noticed, and I've experienced this as well, and I wanted to bring it up because I think it's a very valid point. An individual can negotiate their debt with a company.
Mm-hmm.
And you just mentioned 30%. Wow. From $100 to $30.
Correct.
That's quite a savings.
Mm-hmm.
When an individual does that on their own, and let's say company A dismisses that $70 and all you're paying is $30, is that or can that be counted as income?
That's a good question, Pastor. You stumped me on that one.
Okay.
Can it be counted as income?
Because it's something that's owed, and it's almost like you're getting free money.
Right.
So could, and I guess the larger point is, would that be considered, could that be looked at when it comes to your taxes as income?
As a consumer or as the creditor?
As a consumer.
That's a good question. I don't know.
Really?
I believe yes.
Can I say this to you? It
Yeah,
can be.
It can be, right?
And the reason why I know, been there, done that, I got the badge, I got the belt buckle, I
Yeah.
got the boots, but this is the thing. If that were to occur and you have X number of dollars that are being forgiven,
Uh-huh.
you need to get it in writing, okay, that that's the case, and you need to have that conversation. Because what you don't want is for that to be counted when it comes tax time to be looked at as income.
Right, right.
You follow what I'm saying?
And what kind of letter do you recommend to back you on that case to verify it?
What's being charged off
Okay.
is not going to come back to me as income.
Right, right. Yeah.
Simple terminology.
Awesome. Yeah, and with charged off accounts, from my knowledge, you know, when the creditor charges off the account, what happens is A, they get to write it off as a loss for their tax purposes, number one.
They do.
But they also get reimbursed by their insurance company for their loss, which is benefiting twice. But now check this out. Then they sell it to a collection agency for 30 cents on the dollar, and they just won 3 times off a consumer. Yes, sir. So charged off accounts, you guys just have to be very careful with those. Your repossessions, the credit cards especially, because creditors are winning when it comes to consumers not paying on time and letting debt go.
Man, the effects of not knowing what to do,
Right.
not knowing what the ramifications are. You know what else I'm going to say? And I challenge you to be bold. This is your life. This is your credit. So while God says it's not bad, it's neutral or whatever the case may be, it's so important that you live a disciplined life. That's why we pray. That's why we read the Word. It's a disciplined life. We need to be disciplined with our monies. We need to be disciplined with our savings. You just don't wake up and find yourself in debt. Do you have to have, and you mentioned this earlier, do you have to have certain things? Do you have to buy this particular article? Do you have to, possess these kinds of shoes? Do you have to do these things? Because at the end of the day, if you can't pay it, it's coming to get you. And the sad thing is most consumers, they aren't aware of what the real ramifications are of bad credit decisions.
That's right. And I've been there. I've had to learn firsthand myself, and that's why I'm so blessed to be at this level now, because I can talk about, what it's like to have bad credit and struggle and get told no and denied. And, a lot of consumers with bad credit, they don't have the cash to really survive where you need credit.
Man. Okay. If you negotiate with a company and agree on a payment plan, can they still report you to the credit bureau? That's a really good question.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. If you agree on after the account has already been charged off, or while the account is positive, I want to ask, as far as that question, because...
Well, it says if you negotiate with the company and you agree on a payment plan,
yeah, if you're negotiating with a company on a payment plan, the account is already a bad account. Yes, they can report that onto the credit report. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, I know this to be true as well. When, let's say you want to have a credit card canceled, from a particular company, and that information goes to your credit report, is it a difference whether they close it? Because I was told years ago that whenever I'm requesting for a credit card on an account to be closed, that I need to make sure they document the fact that the customer's requesting it closed.
Correct. Yeah, on the statement part on your credit report, every account has a statement explaining what happened. When lenders see account closed by creditor, it looks much worse than account closed by consumer's request, because the only reason why a creditor would close an account on you is just a few things. A, you're going over your credit limits, you're not managing the debt properly, or you're not using the debt enough, where you're not active enough to keep it open, where you're not using any of the debt at all, where they close it. And obviously, having relationships with banks, when another bank sees that, why am I going to extend a line of credit to you if my buddy over here at Chase closed an account on you? So yeah.
Okay.
Back to that first question, that last question though, Pastor, something just came to mind. What you can do with the debt that you negotiate for a payment plan is you can request a pay for delete. What a pay for delete is that, listen, I owe you $1,000. I've admitted to the debt, okay? We're going to settle on $300, and I'm going to pay in full today. This is one of my tactics with my clients. I have the money right now. I'm ready to pay you. Now, before I pay you, you must fax me or email me or send me a letter in writing saying when I pay you, you're going to delete this negative account off my credit report. A lot of collection agencies will do that if you come at them the right way. So it's called a pay for delete. Settle for 30 cents on the dollar, normally the last day of the month, because they have commissions to hit, but do not pay until you get that in writing.
I like that. Man, that's good. What you don't know, you don't know.
What you don't know, you don't know.
But you do this every day.
Yes, sir.
Sounds like you know what you're doing. Okay. Any recommendations on a zero to low interest card that can start off with to do a balance transfer that you were speaking on?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know it. You first want to target the banks you already have relationships with personal checking, business checking accounts. But some great ones are, the Chase Sapphire was doing 0% for the first, I believe I got the first 12 to 15 months. if you have a relationship with Navy Federal and you apply after midnight for an automatic approval, now mind you, you need those 720 scores and up. That's the key. You can't get 0% with less than a 720 FICO score. It's almost impossible. Navy Federal would also be a good one. Right now, Bank of America has a nice credit card for 0% for the first 12 to 18 months as far as businesses. Capital One, the venture, sometimes they'll run 0% for the first 12 months. But what you want to do because they're changing every month, every quarter, 0% credit cards, is you want to go on NerdWallet. Go on nerdwallet.com, and they're going to list the top credit cards that are 0%. Now, if you have an account on Experian.com and you click on credit cards, you can target all the 0% credit cards that your current personal profile matches up with and apply for those as well.
Excellent. One final question dealing with consumer credit.
Mm-hmm.
No credit, bad credit. Which is worse?
Bad credit. Bad credit. The reason why bad credit is worse is because you already have a history of pulling out debt and not paying on it on time. Now you have to go through a lengthy repair process. If it's 6, 8, 12, 15, 18, 24 months to repair, then directly after that, you have to rebuild. And let's be honest, no company can just get rid of 100% of negative accounts. Not everything is going to be inaccurate, right? But as to oppose a client with no credit, what we can do all in 30 to 60 days is really build and structure where that client, once you put 1, 2 accounts on there, jumps straight to 750. Because no credit, you have a 0 score. If you only have positive accounts, that's the algorithm for a 700 plus FICO score. Now you can really start pulling out capital with no credit, just adding credit building products that we carry.
Okay. Final question on consumer credit. Why is it that sometimes, I'll just use myself as an example. At one moment, my credit score may be 750, and then I can look again within, let's say, a few weeks or maybe a month or so. It drops to 735. Then another month or so, it's up to 760 or whatever the case. Why does it fluctuate? And I've not really made any major purchases or anything along those lines.
So there has to be a reason behind the increase or decrease. Normally, it's the balances. It's the balances on your credit cards, right? You're using a little bit more one month than you are the previous month. And every credit card has a statement date and a payment date. So the date you make your payment isn't the date they're reporting the balance to the credit bureaus. It's your statement date is the date they're reporting the balance to the credit bureaus. So the number one cause for increases or decreases will be credit utilization, how much credit you're using. Number two is, payment history. Number three, did you run your credit in between times? Because each inquiry, when you apply for credit, if they deny you, dings you 5 to 8 points per inquiry. Now, if they extend a line of credit, it'll ding you 3 to 5 points for an account holding inquiry. Notice how when you go to dealerships, especially with the poor, fair, or even 600 scores, they're putting 10, 15, 20 inquiries on your profile because those 20 inquiries, you might have got approved, but it drops you 100 points, and they know you can't just go down the street to their buddy or their competitor and buy a car now because you're out the game.
Wow.
But it's normally the credit utilization that'll inflate, deflate. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, we're going to shift gears for a moment.
Okay.
And I want us, please pay attention, we're going to be talking about business-related questions.
Yes, sir.
Got some questions specific to business because a lot of our community, we have a lot of business entrepreneurs, individuals involved in business, et cetera, and those that are aspiring to become business owners. So it seems very challenging in trying to obtain credit when you don't have any and when you're just starting out in your business. So the first question I have is this. How can an entrepreneur obtain credit that's in the name of the business without the entrepreneur guaranteeing the loan? And this is $1 million question, and I hear this question asked many times, and it seems like it's just a challenge.
So the business has to be strong enough to carry the debt on its own, first of all. And there's a specific process because I personally build out my clients' business credit profiles to obtain credit without personally guaranteeing the debt. there's a process that first and foremost, every business must go through the credibility stage first, meaning let's make sure your website is online. Let's make sure you have a physical location or virtual address. Let's make sure your phone number is 411 listed. Let's make sure you have a Dun & Bradstreet number, EIN number, and everything is registered correctly with the Secretary of State. A lot of entrepreneurs and business owners, they apply for credit under their business first without even going through the credibility stage. And then I do tier 1 funding. Now, what tier 1 funding is adding what you call net 30 accounts with vendors onto your business credit profile. So you can use companies like Granger, like Quill, like Uline. And what you're going to do is they're going to extend you a line of credit just under your business to shop on their website. Let's say it's office supplies, technology, etc. And what you do is you buy $50, $100, $200 worth of product, let them send you the invoice, and what you do is you have to pay that invoice 10 days early in full to start reporting on-time payments on larger credit lines just under your business before you even apply at Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo, prime lenders for business credit. So it's a step-by-step process that has to be followed thoroughly with the credibility stage complete in order to get credit only under your EIN number, your DMB number, without personally guaranteeing that loan.
We're going to get to that in a minute, but I want to ask this question of you. And for all of our business owners, or entrepreneurs, or those that are desiring to become entrepreneurs and open up your own business, send us in some more questions. This is the perfect opportunity to utilize the history, the knowledge, and the experience of a professional that does this every single day. There's no better way to become more strategically placed in the market than
That's
having
right.
questions answered.
That's
Next
right.
question, and I think this is a good one too. What's the difference between a recourse and a non-recourse loan?
A recourse and a non-recourse loan.
Yes.
You stumped me on that one, Pastor.
You don't know?
No.
Come on.
Define
Timo.
recourse.
Okay.
Installment or revolving?
No. A non-recourse loan doesn't require you to guarantee it personally.
Okay.
A recourse loan is going to be what you use for collateral, and it can be, whatever you have that you're buying, or whatever the case may be, it's going to stand on its own.
Okay.
Without you having to guarantee it. Have you heard the term before, though?
Never heard the term recourse when it comes to that. I normally hear what's the difference between personally guaranteeing a loan and not having to. So the biggest difference is that when you don't have to personally guarantee a debt, that means your personal assets are never at risk. So if you don't pay, let's say I pull out $50,000 just under my business name and my business does not pay that back, well, my business has its own social called an EIN number, and my business can get sued. My business can go down for that debt. But if I own a home, a car, any assets, or have cash in my bank account, they cannot come after my personal assets because both of them are separate, and that's the whole point of building business credit and separating your personal debt from your business debt. And the main thing I see where business owners fail at is separating the two, where they're putting their personal assets at risk by personally guaranteeing debt that they're using to run their business.
That's a
it was
very
the
good
word
point.
recourse that got
Yeah,
me.
and you know what? It's probably a banking term.
Yeah.
That's used. But
For
the
sure.
other thing is this, though. If you're a business owner and you're looking to establish business credit, I'm going to suggest this to you. Do not let a banker hoodwink you into believing that you've got to collateralize it and guarantee it if you're able to stand on your own.
Yeah.
I can share with you an experience, and it was really infuriating that our business, a lender was requiring us to over-collateralize the asset that we were purchasing by 3 or 4 times. And it was unbelievable.
Wow.
Let me tell you what happened. The favor of God, it was nothing but the favor of God. We said no to that loan, found another lender. That lender said yes. The same lender that wanted to over-collateralize tried to come back and wanted our business. It didn't happen.
Wow.
And so at the end of the day, I'm just saying to you, don't be afraid to walk away.
That's right.
Don't be afraid to say no. There are tons of lenders that are out there. There are tons of banks that are out there. And if you're trying to get into business, you don't need to mortgage your house, your car, your parakeet, your pet poodle, or
That's
whatever
right.
else. And they want it all. And I was 3 times the value.
Right.
Unheard of.
Yeah,
Unheard of.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to. I mean, to me, that's a trap because there's so many other business funding sources that you can explore from. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but there's revenue-based funding where you can get funded just off your business's monthly revenue.
Yes.
Credit-based funding. There's a lot of different avenues that you don't have to leverage your home or your assets to get funded. Yes, sir.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, how can the business find out what their credit score is?
Oh, the easiest way is go on nav.com and go on ahead and hook up your business to nav.com. They'll pull your Equifax commercial as well as your Experian commercial. You can check your Dun & Bradstreet as well. They have Dun & Bradstreet has packages that are expensive, but the free tools will definitely help you as well. And one that I like is businesscreditreports.com.
Wow. Now, you've mentioned Dun & Bradstreet several times.
Mm-hmm.
Explain to our viewers tonight who it is, what they do.
Yeah, so Dun & Bradstreet is basically like another commercial credit bureau in the business world. Dun & Bradstreet's job is basically to measure the health of your business as far as how much equity it has, the financials of your business, as well as report anything and everything on your credit profile to outside sources to make lending decisions. Every business needs a DNB number, and once again, it's like another commercial credit bureau like Equifax or Experian on the business side that measures risk and reports financial information about your company to 100 other agencies.
So what would be a good business credit score? What does that look like?
80 plus. So an 80 Paydex score or above is similar to a 700, 720 personal FICO score. Obviously, 90, 100 is the best it gets, but just know that your business credit score, your Paydex score, is measured upon, of course, different things like payment history and how much credit you're using, but more so what's really impactful is how early you pay. The earlier you pay debt off in your business, the higher your Paydex score is going to go.
And so the Paydex score could go up to 100? Is that
Correct.
is that the top?
Correct. 100 is the top, and 80 is like great. You can get funded with an 80 Paydex score.
How much could you get?
What's that?
How much could you get?
Depending, you're only fundable what you've been funded in the past. So the rule of thumb on the business side is you normally can get 3 times the amount that you've already paid back in the past. And with the business side, it's the limits are always higher than on the personal side because lenders understand you're going to be using this capital for your business rather than a consumer for personal needs. So the limits are always higher. Of course, the higher the Paydex score, the more money you can get. But when it comes to different funding like term loans and lines of credit and things like that, that's when your financials, your taxes, your P&L statements come into play to measure how much you can get as well.
Gotcha. So if a business utilizes credit, how long would a negative mark remain on that credit report for that particular business?
I've seen negative marks remain on a business credit profile more than 7 years. It's not like the personal side where after 7 years it's just going to fall off by itself, but you can still dispute negative marks on a business side with Equifax commercial as well as Experian commercial to clear that up. But I've seen negative marks longer than 7 years. I don't know the exact amount if there's an indefinite time frame, but 7 years plus.
Is the Dun & Bradstreet service, is it relatively expensive or is it affordable?
So you can get a Dun & Bradstreet number for free. You can also leverage some of their services for free, but they do have packages that are $199, $599, up to $1,250. I don't use those services. I just use their free services.
Okay.
Now, if you want, what I recommend is for similar to the same services you can get on Dun & Bradstreet, on nav.com, all for like $34, you have everything you need.
Okay. That's great. This is great stuff. Another question, Timo. What's the workaround for both consumers and business credit being pulled? Is there a workaround?
What do you mean as far as a workaround?
the more pulls you have.
Oh yeah, definitely. So that's the great part about building your business credit is you're never going to worry about how many inquiries do I have on my business credit profile where I'm not going to be extended a line of credit. As to oppose on the personal side, I used to do all the personal funding myself for my clients because I know a lot of lenders, their underwriting guidelines. And when COVID happened specifically, I remember this clear as day. I had a guy, he was a 780, but he had more than 10 inquiries on his credit report. The guy couldn't even get $5,000 on a credit card because of how many inquiries were on his personal credit report. So the rule of thumb right now is, guys, you don't want any more than 2 to 3 non-account holding inquiries per bureau per year on your personal credit side. On the business side, it really doesn't matter.
Well, this is good stuff. This is good stuff. I'm really enjoying it because the information I know is valuable and it's very, very much beneficial, especially for consumers as well as business owners.
Yes, sir.
So what I want to do now is I want to kind of shift gears again a little bit, and the things that you can do to avoid debts.
Okay.
Okay. And the first one that I have is this, and I want you to provide a little feedback, and I've got a statement I'm going to read. The first is avoid being a surety. Now, the Bible talks about sureties in Proverbs, and basically what that is, it is a cosigner. Good or bad?
Never cosign.
Thank you.
Never cosign for anybody. You know why? Because people don't care about your credit more than you're going to care for your credit. And a lot of credit-based decisions is emotions. They want that car, they want that home. Most of my clients in their 40s or 50s are in my program due to a divorce and 2 people being on one debt. And due to a separation, nobody kept their commitments and both credit profiles got damaged. Never cosign for anybody.
The Bible is explicitly clear about avoiding surety, depositing a pledge in either money, goods, or partial payments for greater obligation. Proverbs 11:15 tells us not to be surety for someone else. He who is a surety or cosigner for a stranger will surely suffer for it, but he who hates going surety is safe. Proverbs 22:26 and 27 reminds us of more dangers associated with borrowing. Do not be among those who give pledges, among those who become sureties or cosigners for debts. If you have nothing with which to pay, why should he take your bed from under you? And to your point, if people aren't concerned about their own credit, why would they need you to cosign?
That's right.
And they're not going to watch your credit like you're going to watch your credit.
That's
because
right.
they don't care about your credit.
And you're responsible. You sign, you are responsible for that debt if you're using the car or not.
What about children? Co-signing for kids. What do you think?
So, no. I'm not going to co-sign for my daughter, but what I will do is at 15 years old, I'm going to add her as an authorized user on all of my credit cards to start building her own credit, right? So you can do that. If you guys don't know, with kids at 15 years old, as long as you have accounts with good payment history, low utilization, great accounts, you can sign your child on that account and start building credit when they're 15. So by the time they're 18 years old, they're going into life with a 700 plus FICO score, qualifying for the lowest rates where they don't need you as a cosigner.
Wow. And you know what I like about that too, Timo, is that it's much better to do it with a parent who can give them information and knowledge and coach them along the way in establishing credit.
Correct.
Because part of this, again, is being financially responsible.
Correct.
As opposed to them going to university and all of a sudden you have all of these credit card companies trying to issue that credit card for the first time. You have no understanding. You're not reading the contract. You're just excited because I got my credit card.
It happened to me.
Happened to me.
Yeah.
It's been a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I haven't forgotten.
Haven't forgot. Yes, sir.
Second, avoid a balance.
Avoid a balance.
An ongoing balance. If you use a credit card for the points or rewards, pay it off in full at the end of each month.
Yes.
Romans 13:8 says, "Owe nothing to anyone except to love one another. Be sure to do your research and find a card that has a great rewards program. Remember Psalms 37:21, the wicked borrows and does not pay back, but the righteous is gracious and gives."
That's right. And Pastor, speaking about the rewards, For the business owners watching this, I definitely recommend you get yourself a high reward credit card, because me personally, I run my marketing budget on a certain credit card every month, and every month I accumulate about $1,000 in flight travel. So it really helps when I need to go see my daughter in California or go anywhere. I'm traveling for free all year.
Wow.
Yeah, but
Okay.
definitely pay in full.
Okay. Next, avoid long-term debt.
Yes.
If you don't incur charges on your credit card, stop using it. Let me repeat that again. If you do incur charges on your credit card, stop using it until you have paid off all your charges and work diligently to pay them off as quickly as possible. Your home mortgage should be the only long-term debt that you have, if any, and even that you should work to pay it off as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that's true. So, I guess what I would add to that is, with your credit cards, definitely pay those off in full. But I always recommend just keeping a very small balance on it, if it's 2, 3, 4, 5%, because you want to make sure the creditor knows you're active on that account so they don't close it on you. But more importantly, with the mortgage, when you're going to buy a home or a car, you want to basically budget something that is easily able to afford and position yourself to double up on payments, because on most loans there's no prepayment penalties and you can pay a mortgage off in 10, 15 years rather than 30. You never know what's going to happen in life. You could lose a leg, an arm, get sick. You don't want to commit to 30 years on any kind of debt.
Right. And, with regards to mortgages, again, I talk to a lot of people sometimes about, home loans, et cetera, and I'm recommending get a 30-year mortgage, not a 30-year, a 15-year mortgage, only because the difference in the monthly payment is really not that great. And in 5 years, you've already paid off a third of the home.
And you're going to get way better rates on a 15-year. I mean, 1% on a mortgage is about $70,000 over 30 years.
Amazing.
So, when you could get a 2.15, 2.25 on a 15, take it.
Okay. Let's avoid long-term debt. If you do incur charges on your credit card, yes. Repay what you owe.
Yes.
Repay what you owe. For Christians, bankruptcy should never, ever be an option.
That's right.
When you borrow, you're making a vow or a promise to repay what you borrow, even if the law says bankruptcy is an acceptable option. God still expects us to repay all of our debts and fulfill our promises. In Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 4 through 5, when you make a vow to God, do not delay to fulfill it. He has no pleasure in fools. Fulfill your vow. It is better not to make a vow than to make one and not fulfill it. It may take time, hard work, and a lot of sacrifice, but you can pay off your debts and honor the Lord while you do it.
That's right.
Never an option.
Never an option.
I've heard people say, I'm going to file bankruptcy. And they do it over and over again. And that's a bad habit to develop. Doesn't speak to us highly as being Christians either.
And you know what I learned just a few years ago, Pastor, is that I didn't know that if you attempt to file bankruptcy and you don't go through with it, they still report it on your credit as a dismissed bankruptcy. Did you know that?
I had no idea.
Yeah, so if you attempt to file bankruptcy and you do not move forward with the bankruptcy, they take that data and report the bankruptcy on your file, but instead of discharge or open, it says dismissed.
Is that the courts that's doing
Correct.
that? Wow.
Or the smaller data house, because the court doesn't send anything to the credit bureaus.
Now, during Health Month over the years, we've talked about this over and over again. Here at FCC, we have Dave Ramsey, which speaks to, having budgets, getting out of debt, et cetera. One of the things that's extremely important is that you need to have an emergency savings fund. You have to have an emergency fund. Pastors talked about this, and he's preached about this over the years. There was a sermon, If Your Money Could Talk. And one of the things that I remember him saying in this particular sermon and message was this: life happens. If you're not saving, if you don't have an emergency fund, then you're going to be caught in the storm, and you won't be prepared. And there we go again with the stress and reaching for a credit card to handle simple things like a tire change or an engine blowing in your vehicle or
That's right.
some other just natural occurrence that can happen. Life always happens. And this is one of the most important principles to follow when it comes to achieving any financial stability. Most Americans don't have $500 saved. Couple that with the staggering amount of debt owed by each household, and it's no wonder credit card debt is a growing epidemic. Proverbs 21:20 says, "There is a precious treasure and oil in the dwelling of the wise, but a foolish man swallows it up." Protect yourself from having to depend on your credit cards to pay for an emergency or unexpected expense by having healthy savings account. Start with $1,000 and work your way up to a year's worth of living expenses.
That's right.
That's a lot.
Yes, sir.
And that number has grown. But understanding where we are now, just in the climate of things, I can understand why a year's worth of savings. I wonder how many people could have benefited in the pandemic in 2020 had they had a year's worth of savings.
That's right. And that's so important. That's so important. It took me a long time to understand. And you know what it is we talked about is the discipline. You know, when you have something that you want to purchase as to oppose, let me put it away, you know, depending where your mindset is, a lot of times that's difficult for a lot of people not to spend off impulse. But I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Good point. Good point. Last but not least, create a budget.
Yes.
This applies to those with and without debt. Following a budget is the absolute best way to see that your money is going and what the purposes it's serving. Remember, not everyone should have a credit card. Let me repeat that again. Not everyone should have a credit card. Be honest with yourself and pray about the decision before you continue to use yours and get one. It takes wise management and discipline to use it the right way, so spare yourself the debt and pain if you know you won't handle it the right way. Be honest with yourself. If you know for a fact that you have issues with spending and buying and just consumption as a whole, and you've got the mindset of a consumer, and I'm not making fun of anyone, don't use credit. It will save you pain. It will save you agony. Any final words, Timo?
Well, first of all, thank you again. I mean, this was a very amazing session, but words of wisdom, guys, like Pastor was saying, if you're a consumer and you know you spend off impulse, avoid credit as much as possible. Credit is a tool. Credit is a tool just like money is a tool. See, you guys that are business owners, when you invest $1,000, it feels much different when you spend $1,000, right? So understand credit, learn as much as you can, save as much as you can, put your budgets together, but more so understand credit is a tool used to get you to different levels in life. And if you can't manage money properly, you can't manage credit properly, and you have no business having either, if you ask me. So get disciplined, starve your distractions, feed your focus, and get serious about your credit and your finances.
Perfect. We have one last question that came in which we're going to answer.
Yes, sir.
And that is there a benefit of paying someone like Timo to continually manage my credit for me?
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely a benefit. We could monitor your credit. I can consult for free as well, things you can do on your own to strengthen your credit profile. Because with my last 7 to 10 years worth of finance experience, having the relationships I have now with my lenders, I just understand what banks look for. And my goal is just to have you positioned properly to be able to get what you need when you need it. But yeah, you know, we could definitely work something out, and monitoring your credit is the step. Now, instead of paying me, you can also hook up to a credit monitoring site like Experian.com, Identity Club, Identity IQ. And what I like about these credit monitoring sites is they alert you real time. You know, you might only pay $1 to get onto one of those. They alert you real time from anything affecting your FICO, but definitely reach out. I could definitely help. So with that being said, guys, we're actually going to be doing a 50% off sale for your members. So anybody needing my services, if it's, you know, credit repair, if it's credit building, if it's business credit, if it's business funding, or even personal funding, we're going to be doing 50% off for all of Pastor Wilson's members. And all you have to do is call my company line at 855-327-2727 and mention the code CHURCH $50. Now, before we accept any payments up front, we always consult for free. So, no obligation to sign up, but at least you can get all the information you're seeking on how to further strengthen your business credit profile or personal credit profile and have that plan designed by myself and my team.
That's an awesome opportunity. So if you're challenged with regards to being able to get your credit straightened out, 50% off. That's
right.
a really good deal, plus it's a savings. We're about saving, and we're about helping other people. So, Timo, I want to thank you personally and from the house as a whole for offering such a generous, generous opportunity for people to get out of debt, manage their credit, and have some professional assistance that can help walk them away. The other part of this, too, I know that your company probably provides some level of education. Again, I said it earlier, my people perish for lack of knowledge.
That's right.
You need to be informed. You need to have an understanding, even at the most basic level.
That's right.
Whether it's consumer, whether it's for business. And whatever that may look like, consulting with your team will certainly provide them with the opportunity. So, Timo, I want to thank you for tonight. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you, Pastor.
Got to get you back. And so for all of you that have been watching tonight, our prayer is that this has been a blessing. Hopefully you have found that some of the information has been very insightful. Now, I'm going to say this. This is Health Month. Don't take the information that's been presented tonight for granted. Apply it. Use it. God wants us to live a life, and he wants it to be full. If we follow what God says, he can possibly even add years to our life. But more importantly, he wants to add life to our years. And the best way to do that is not to be encumbered with debt. So with that being said, it's been a pleasure. It's been an honor. So good for all of you watching us, and for our first-time visitors, please join us again. Good night.
Good night.